All right, it's time for today's live stream. Let's make sure that we're actually live over on Rumble. Of course, where again, I still have neglected to email their staff with regards to the issue for live chat. So I can't have it down below. I have to have it slightly wider than I would like to have it. And yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Like, it's not undoable or anything like that. It's just, it miffs me. I should probably pause myself. I don't want to see myself talking. Anyway, we'll get to Super Chats. We've got lots of news to cover. We've got the DOJ and the Brothel network, of course. That's an interesting story, because I was told that such things didn't exist and were conspiracy theories. Some of them having to do with pizza, of course. We won't even be able to bring that up on a YouTube live stream. We'll talk about the triad weed farming going on in Maine. Yes, Chinese investors, so to speak, have decided to get in on the marijuana business. So much for the based in trad China sort of line that you hear from the East Blockers, you know, the Hinkles of the world. And we'll be talking about plenty of other stuff. Polling, new polling is available. We've got, I think it was these were Bloomberg Morning Consult, so with a grain of salt mode, but they are in line with Emerson and other more legit polling firms. So overall, you're getting a pretty good aggregated picture of the potential Trump-Biden matchup that's 99.9% going to happen. Of course, Biden would croak or something like that. Gavin Newsom, 24 out of nowhere, but it's likely anyway. We'll be talking about all of that and much, much more. The bonus holes. George Lucas did nothing wrong. Climate terrorists blocking roads or engaging in hostage taking. Free George Lucas, also obligatory plug. X at the bonus holes. That would be on Twitter. I refuse to call it X, because basically it's Twitter. Everyone still knows it as Twitter until Elon Musk decides to start packaging up his, everything app. It'll still remain Twitter, basically. I'm going to check this really. A couple people saying they can't see the Rumble stream. Just refresh it if you can't see it. And I should be live, by the way. Anyway. We'll get right into some goofy news in a moment, but first I wanted to tell you about something funny. Last night I had a lot of fitful sleeping because this kitty decided to wake me up over and over, because she does that on a regular basis. But I had the weirdest fucking dreams. In one, Ray Vahi was telling me, he was calling me on the phone. He's the leader of BitChute, actually. And he was talking to me saying that he wanted to decorate the office with a pile of skulls. And I thought he meant real skulls or like resin casts or something. But then he showed me what it was. Somehow I teleported to him or something along those lines. And it was like this pile of like fake heads that were made of paper mache. And it looked very Bauhaus. And they were all multicolored and messed up. It looked like, the heads from Transformers or something like that had been stacked up into a little obelisk. And then I had another dream. And this one was even weirder, where Chris Christie actually was giving, like, I don't know, a presser or something like that. There were people around with cameras and stuff in front of a random building. And I was in the crowd, and I was telling, Christie was stuffing his face with food. And I was like, if you don't get back on your diet, you're going to eat yourself to death. And I was trying to prevail upon Chris Christie to stop binge eating in front of this crowd of people. And he just had this vacant, like, faraway stare, like he was completely unaware of what was going on around him. And he was shoveling random food. I don't know exactly what he was eating from a box into his mouth. And he just sort of had that stare, like somebody who's completely unconcerned with anything else going around. I just thought it was funny. Thought I'd tell people that. Billy, good morning, Sticks. Don't forget the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald 48 years ago today. Gordon Lightfoot song is awesome. I do agree. I like that song. There's plenty of documentaries about the Edmund Fitzgerald. Maybe I'll watch one later. The bonus holes. I call it X because YouTube blocks super chats with the other word when I try. Alan Smithy. Hold up the pumpin' poos like Lion King. Yeah, I don't think that she would like that. She seems to be pretty happy down where she is right now. Jason Voorhees, my mom did nothing wrong. Mr. Kojak, Krispy Kreme donuts. Yeah, he was just shoveling the food in. I was trying to tell him not to eat himself to death, and he wouldn't listen to me. This is a very realistic dream, by the way. Yeah, I mean, when my sleep is interrupted, I have weird ass dreams, and when I can remember them, I generally they're on the weird side more than anything else. I've had lucid dreams and dreams where I feel like I'm astrally projecting above my body and weird stuff like that too. So, by the way, you may hear the baby in the background. She is upstairs. The weather is a little bit too inclement for Liz to take the baby out on a walk, so she's just sort of upstairs playing with her Peter Conine book. That is Peter Rabbit, of course. Alan Tenaz, did you hear they were going to make a sequel to Minority Report, but they thought it was going to get recast because the criminals were just going to be a bunch of joggers? Clank. No, I didn't. That sounds interesting. I don't know if I've seen Minority Report. Or have I? I don't know. Jason Voorhees, I don't know how I survived being hit with an axe. I guess this is going to be the new Styx livestream meme. We've got Jason in the house. Definitely better than Freddy, by the way. Jason 5, my favorite movie in the franchise. I am in a very, very small minority when it comes to that. If you're going to do a slasher, do it right and make it as mindless and bloody and crazy as possible. 4 was good. 6 was good, but 5, really, that was my favorite one. Again, I'm probably like fucking the only person on the stream that thinks that. DOJ announces arrests in high-end brothel network used by elected officials, military officers, and others. 3 individuals have been arrested on charges of operating a high-end brothel network in Massachusetts and Virginia with a clientele that included elected officials, military officers, and government contractors with security clearances, the Justice Department announced Wednesday. Wonder why this story didn't go straight to the top. I wonder why it was covered up. We'll see, I suppose, or probably not in the future. Levy did not identify any of the brothel's clients. How convenient, by the way, and noted that multiple search warrants are being executed in the case of Massachusetts, California, and Virginia. Han Lee of Cambridge, Massachusetts, James Lee of Torrance, California, and Junmyoung Lee of Dedham, Massachusetts have been charged with conspiracy to coerce and entice to travel to engage in illegal sexual activity. They are expected to appear in federal court in Boston Wednesday or at a later date. Chi-coms, basically, infiltrating and doing exactly what the resistance did to Nazis actually in the 40s. When you want to get intel on your enemies, and your enemies are mainly male, the easiest way to do it is with females. By the way, Bang Bang Fang Fang with Eric Swalwell. What the fuck do you think was happening there? The easiest way to do that is to entice them with pretty young women. And that appears to be probably what was happening here, which is why you're not going to hear a terribly lot about this case as it's ongoing. The case goes to the summer of 2022, when investigators identified several buyers through surveillance phone records and interviews. Levy said the buyers who made up this ring hail from an array of professions. They are doctors, they are lawyers, they are accountants, they are elected officials, they are executives of high-tech companies and pharmaceutical companies. They are military officers, government contractors, professors, and scientists. They're the men who fuel this commercial sex ring. Why on earth would you want to have a bunch of high-class escorts and so forth, catering to a bunch of rich and powerful people with security clearance? I can't put 2 and 2 together. The legacy media needs to tell me exactly why you would want to do that, especially when the perps that have at least so far been arrested quite clearly are of a certain descent, which links to a certain country, which has every reason to spy on the United States. I can't imagine what was happening here. I don't expect to hear another mumbling goddamn word about this goddamn story on front page news from the legacy media. Any updates will be buried in an avalanche of other happenstance news. I think we can probably all understand why. Yeah. Oh, you mean that the rich and powerful also solicit escorts? That's interesting. And somebody took advantage of it. Again, we are totally unaware of why. Let's see. Jason Voorhees, 5, I wasn't in it, and I was asleep because of a kid. Chuck Flea, McDonald's is only decent for breakfast. That's disgusting. Have you actually, seen their breakfasts and shit? It's a pile of bullshit. Make your own breakfast. I guarantee a novice can easily make eggs better than anything you'll get at McDonald's. My mom works at McDonald's. I think that she would agree. By the way, you can make great potatoes, hash browns on your own. You don't need to go to McDonald's. No Pa King, $9.99. No comment. Thank you. Joe Biden. I will make sure Trump is taken off ballot. Billy, chat says it's the Edmund Sticksgerald instead. I wouldn't want to go down in those cold waters, that's for sure. It is kind of a crazy case. I mean, they're still not 100% sure exactly what happened. They're not sure whether it was the hatches didn't close properly or there was one of those freak wave events where several waves converge and then they get gigantic. They're not 100% sure. AP1S2K, Jimmy Dean maple sausage stuffed with cheese. Maple sausage is good, but I'll leave the cheese out. Scott Foradora, new slogan we should make go viral. Save Palestine and Israel. Elect Trump. Yeah, exactly. You want the war to end real quick? Re-elect Donald Trump. It may or may not have ended in a ceasefire by then. Ronan361, speaking of cats, has Farah ever farted in your face when you pet her kitty butt on the table? Thankfully, no. Although Gizmo did that one time when I was much younger. When he was a kitten, there was this one time he was on my lap. It was, at night, and I was just sort of, on my computer. And I was petting his belly. All of a sudden, I smelled this most god-awful stink. It smelled like garum, if tasting history would be any indicator. To the point where I'm like, oh, shit. I almost thought about leaving the room. He had such bad gas when he was a kitten. I don't know exactly how it was accomplished. Stunner Shade 6. Stick, serious question. We are expecting our first son soon. What is your view of circumcision? I oppose it. Most Americans are circumcised regardless of religion for some reason. Not sure what to do. I am completely against it and consider it child abuse, so please don't do that. It has no medical benefits of any established quality. It is effectively nothing more than superstition, and it only became common in the United States as the result of eugenics. So if you want to endorse eugenics and child abuse and superstition, then yeah, get him circumcised, but that's not a great idea. Sigil Stone, Americans are circumcised because the guy that invented cornflakes, yes, Kellogg's himself, had a real big bug up his ass about masturbation. True story, look it up. You are absolutely correct. Originally, circumcision was peddled to the people of the United States as a way to keep young boys from playing with themselves. It doesn't actually do that, by the way. There are medical complications that can arise from it, and there are no recognized medical benefits in any established literature of any note. Some Christian institute can claim that it, cures AIDS or something like that. That's pseudoscience. It's not real. Should be left up to the individual. Alan Tenays, you ever make a proper full English breakfast with black pudding? I would like to try it, but try finding black pudding in, Rutland or even here in the Netherlands. I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from England, so I can go get an Ulster fry or something like that, in 2 hours, but I'm not going to spend the money on a plane ticket just to get breakfast. Fire down below. What's going on with Spain's government? It looks like the socialists are trying to seize control, and some people are standing in their way. We'll see what happens. I'll be talking about that more tomorrow. We'll probably have more updates overnight. Claudius 1964. Good morning, Sticks. Have you ever read Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World? No, I haven't, actually. Doc Holliday. Yes, circumcised, otherwise dog pee-pee. Yeah, no, I'm circumcised, and I'm perfectly happy with that, but there was always that 1 in 100 or so chance that it would cause some sort of dysfunction or scarring. I'm glad it didn't, but it could have, and it shouldn't have been done. But back then, people were not aware of the fact that all the studies saying, well, it helps to prevent AIDS transmission. It's just cleaner. It will prevent phimosis. Okay, yeah, for 1 in 1,000 people, circumcision or some sort of procedure may be required or at least, recommended. Let them do that when they're older, when they're able to understand that it's going to be irreversible, et cetera, et cetera. I'm effectively an intactivist. Probably the most notable one, ironically. It's not much of a social movement, though it should be. We don't allow female circumcisions, even though in some cultures it's literally nothing more than a slight reduction in the labia. Well, it's basically the same procedure. Well, cleaning your labia will be much easier without all the, it won't hold in the smegma or something like that. We don't allow that. We consider it child abuse. How the fuck is it any different? Fallen Hero 4567 sent $1. No comment. Thank you. Meisner Flux, also circumcision reduces sensitivity and thus reduces sexual pleasure. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, there's no, to quote Trump, there's no problem, don't worry, or something to that effect. But it can, yeah, absolutely. It's, there's literally no reason to perform it in most cases. Pug Warrior, thanks for your informative takes. Keep on playing PS Play Project Zomboid. Next news story, we've got Chinese marijuana. Triad weed, how Chinese marijuana grows took over rural Maine. So this is in my neck of the woods in northern New England. Illegal Chinese marijuana grows have taken over much of rural Maine. The government is either incapable or unwilling, it's the latter, by the way, to do anything about it. The Maine Wire has identified more than 100 properties that are part of a sprawling network of Chinese-owned sites operating as unlicensed illicit cannabis growing operations in rural Maine. So this is up in Stephen King's swamps where he gets his ideas for his decreasingly coherent books. According to an unclassified memo from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security obtained by the Maine Wire, the illicit grows are operated by Asian Transnational Criminal Organizations, or TCOs. The properties cover Somerset County, Penobscot, Kennebec County, Franklin, Androscoggin, and Oxford County. The sites were purchased over the past 3 years by single adults, primarily from New York and Massachusetts. Oh, God, massholes and New Yorkers. Ruining the neighborhood once again. Using cash or financing arranged through a handful of mortgage companies. So you've got a fairly major criminal syndicate here, apparently with triad ties of all things, growing weed and getting people high. Now, I keep hearing from the nouveau trad people that China is based. Well, China doesn't have this woke stuff. Okay, well then why the fuck do they keep exporting and financing the export of all this stuff to the Western world? Yeah, I mean, most of these people are against weed smoking, consider it degenerate, but China's growing the weed. They consider critical race theory to be degenerate, which, I mean, I agree with them on that, but it's being promoted openly by the Chinese, by the Chi-Coms. It's because they want to undo Western culture without firing a shot. That's number one. Number two, well, I think weed should be legal. I think mainly it should just be grown by private individuals. So people should be able to grow their own, like, pop in a couple plants in your garden. They do that here. It's kind of sort of technically in a gray area, but it's not enforced and nobody really cares if there's a weed plant growing in the fucking garden. Nobody cares. I've never heard of Chinese weed being grown in the Netherlands. And supposedly I've seen some people as weed tourists that thought that Dutch weed actually sucked. Probably depends which dispensary you go to. The Grizzly, what happens if the Uniparty loses again in 24? Are we just buying time for ourselves, or are we starting to make headway for populism as a movement? We've already laid a big, thick foundation for populism and quasi-libertarianism in the United States. We keep fighting. Terror Billy, don't clank me, bro. Chinese weed, probably laced with fentanyl, because they make that too. The bonus holes, English breakfast is an abomination and a crime against humanity. Actually, I've had pseudo-English breakfast before, not with the black pudding and stuff, but with the mushrooms and beans and the eggs and the sausage. I thought it was delicious. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very top-heavy for a breakfast. It's definitely hefty. But, I mean, it's really more for somebody who's going to be doing, like, logging, or they work in a coal mine or something. They could probably use a full English. If you're like me and your job consists of talking on the internet and then puttering around in the garden or something, probably, well, you're going to have to limit your quantity of what your intake is with the full English. Also, you'd be farting around a little bit afterwards, possibly, depending on how your digestive system is. By the way, for some reason, I've got a cast iron stomach and don't have a fucking problem. Dynaside 13. Good morning from the woods of Wisconsin. I am returning to Monkey for a few days. Absolutely beautiful despite the cold. No alcohol, not much internet, just beautiful. Clank with sterno-heated tea. Sounds cool. I want to return to Monkey sometime and make like a fucking lean-to. Owl kitty. Tristan Armstrong, your biltong merchant doesn't ship to Canada. Why? Try shipping meat across international borders. It will not go over very well. Typically, it stays within country unless, like within the EU, you can ship meat. But that's because there's a universal standard. But with the United States, it's different. And so, yeah, meat and also cheese, dairy shipments. Jesus Christ. Dairy shipments probably even more regulated than the meat is. Dat pie over there. Lee had a red wave this election in fortified New York state. Suffolk CEO finally went red for the first time in over a decade by a landslide, changing my swing state status prediction from 6 to 8 years to 4 to 6. I don't think New York is going to become a swing state. I do think that it will become closer. It would be dumb for the Republicans to focus too much firepower on it, though, when there are actual swing states to focus on. Musically Assured Destruction. Will you write a booklet about anti-black pilling? Yeah, I'd consider that. I have plenty of videos on the topic, though. Let's see. Sigil Stone. The Chinese can openly grow all kinds of drugs and sell them God knows where, but the actual citizens get fucked up for being in the same zip code as drugs. There's a solution for government like that. Yeah, I know. There's differential enforcement. It's the root of all legal evil in the United States. Next news story, we've got new polling as of November 10th. So, these are recent polls. They are from Bloomberg, although there are some data for progress polls. Obviously, they show more blue because data for progress is literally run by the Dems, and I don't even know why it's listed on RCP. Here are the polls, and there's not a big differential. Again, I take an extreme win on this one. You remember when RFK Jr. dropped his Dem bid and all of the Republicans and like Trump fans like myself that are independent, they went and ape shit and they said, oh my God, well, this is a spoiler. They're trying to stop being cock block Trump. That's not going to happen. And I predicted that it wouldn't happen. And I was right. And yeah, I literally told you so. And I'm not going to humble brag. I was just completely starkly right on this one. Let's look at the polling. Georgia, Trump versus Biden. Trump +7. When you add Kennedy and West, Trump +9. Pennsylvania, Trump versus Biden. Trump +3, unchanged at +3 when Kennedy and West are considered. Michigan, Trump v. Biden. It's a tie. Biden does manage to gain a point in Michigan, though, when West and RFK Jr. are thrown into the mix. So I guess they'll fixate on that one. Trump loses 1 point nationally if RFK Jr. exists. Wisconsin, Trump v. Biden. Trump +1. +2 when Kennedy and West are involved in the race. Oh, Trump gains a point there. It's inexplicable. Also gaining a point in Nevada, going from +3 to +4, and unchanged in Arizona at +4 regardless. I told you so, and the reason was obvious. RFK Jr. is going to take some partisan Dems from the Never Biden crowd, from Dem partisans who will not vote for anybody else because he's a lifelong registered Dem. He's also going to take some Trump voters that are not Republicans, but which voted for Trump in 2016, especially, and many didn't in 2020, especially in the Rust Belt. He's going to take those from Trump. But it doesn't change the metric at all. It doesn't mean anything because the levels are almost completely even. For every partisan Dem that otherwise would have voted for Biden, there'll be a partisan Dem that would have flipped over to Trump that's going to vote for RFK Jr. instead because they hate Biden, but they also don't like Donald Trump. And I told people about this for weeks and weeks. In fact, well, over a month now, actually, I think. And a lot of people didn't believe me. They thought RFK Jr. enters the race. Whoop, it's done. Donald Trump is sunk. He is currently ahead in 4 of the 6 major swing states. He's tied in a 5th. The only one in which he suffers a detriment at all is in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is more of a long shot. But of those states, it's the most blue. At this point, though, Donald Trump is theoretically competitive, and I really wish they'd do more polling because I think it would reflect this in 2 states that are very important, Virginia and Minnesota. I think that Trump will win 4 of those 6, if nothing else changes considerably. Trump wins 4 of those 6 swing states. He also picks up either Virginia or Minnesota, making an additional swing state that he manages to pull out of the Dem fold. He therefore wins the election by a margin similar to 2016, based on polling, that's what I would preliminarily estimate would be the case. We've still got a long way to go, though. The polls could go in either direction, by the way. They could go against Biden or they could go against Trump. We could see Donald Trump running under house arrest. What effect does that have on polling? I don't know. Indictment didn't seem to hurt him much. If anything, it bolstered his support more. And keep in mind, imagine you're a Democrat right now. And this really is the kicker. I mean, the polling analysis is interesting, but the real kicker is that Joe Biden is currently fairly far down against somebody that supposedly he completely gobsmacked in national polling in 2020 against an opponent who may very well be running from house arrest or possibly, if they're really crazy, from a jail cell. That does not say great things about Joseph Biden now, does it? No, I think that it says that Joe Biden is fucked up and he's got a lot of baggage. And there are a lot of people with buyer's remorse that really regret having voted for him. By the way, Second Horizon, I agree. The mugshot was definitely worth a lot of votes. It did instantly become one of the greatest memes of modern times. BW, what do you think about Jill Stein joining the race and rumors that Joe Manchin might be running third party? Might help us? Manchin jumping in, I don't think either of them really does anything. Joe Manchin may be the no-labeler opponent, but the thing is that those reluctant Dems are already RFK mainly. And so basically he's competing with RFK Jr., not with Biden, not with Trump, but with RFK Jr. Jill Stein is mainly competing with Cornel West. Again, not with Biden, not with Trump. People who are disaffected by one or both of the mainline candidates have already gravitated towards the other polls within the field. Anyone else joining in, unless it's something that is fairly separate from all of that, doesn't really move the metric. But again, Manchin's a lifelong Democrat. Jill Stein is a socialist. Does this really do anything? It siphons a few votes from Biden, maybe. So an anti-Biden voter that nonetheless hates RFK Jr. finds Jill Stein or Cornel West or palatable, or Joe Manchin or something like that. The effect will be blunted. And mainly it'll happen in blue enclaves anyway. The same as with on the other side. If you lose 10,000 votes in a far red enclave and you're Donald Trump, does it really matter? Oh, you lost 5,000 votes in Wisconsin. Who cares? You're going to win by 100,000 votes. So it doesn't, as far as the Electoral College goes, I don't think Jill Stein's entry matters. The Grizzly. Do you think Joe Manchin is going to join in the 24 race as an independent? If so, do you expect a massive mental breakdown like when RFK Jr. joined in? There would definitely be a lot of hit pieces and a bit of a breakdown by leftoids. Oh my God, this is Joe Manchin is on Team Russia. We told you so, and stupid shit like that. I don't know whether he's going to join in. I'll be analyzing more tomorrow. Deus Flex. Given Jill Stein's stance on Gaza, how many Dem votes do you think she'll take in 2020 compared to 2016? Less. I think that the Green Party is going to be a non-issue for anyone within the election. Eagle. Critical. Sticks if he sold out. I've seen him plastered all across 4chan multiple times. There seems to be an astroturfing attempt at times. Vognarvik Gaming. Let's go, Brandon. And a shout out for my YouTube channel. Okay, Vognarvik Gaming. There is a shout out for you. Yes, I'll be talking about Jezebel tomorrow too, to President-elect Pressure 609. Don't worry. Let's see. Dagnabbit32. Sticks, why are boomers such authoritarians, especially Christian ones? This is why Republicans fail. A lot of the boomers are Democrats too. They've been warped, corrupted. Wasted Bonehead, good morning from the grave. Here comes our resident zombie. Bayonne 201, good morning from Goofy Stowe, Vermont. I voted for Jill Stein in 2016. Now I'm MAGA all the way. I drink liberal tears for breakfast. Hashtag gays for Trump. Hashtag Clank Nation. Yeah. Who's your daddy? RFK and the Secret Service. Yeah, eventually they're going to have to give him Secret Service protection. You know, it would be very bad for Biden, by the way, if a Kennedy who's running against him gets shot or something, and he's the one that denied the detail to him. That would begin to look really, really suspicious to a lot of people. I think it would trigger a lot of the left-wing boomers, by the way. Next news story. Why Trump's rally mattered more than the GOP debate in Miami. Well, I'm not even going to go through the fucking article. I'll tell you long and short. I don't need, 20 paragraphs to do it. The reason why is because Trump's rally actually had attendance. Despite, DeSantis fan claims to the contrary. Well, people were walking out early. It was low energy. Well, that's not what I'm seeing in pictures and footage of the actual rally. It looks like multiple thousands of people having a good time. And I'm not sure what you're on about. And it looks like you may have spliced footage. And I'm not 100% sure. And I really, at this point, I don't even give a fuck. Trump's rally was attended by people who care about him as a candidate. The debate was attended by people who largely are on the fence and don't give a fuck about any of the candidates. If you went to the NBC Republican presidential debate, it must have had all of the energy of a graveyard. It'd be a little bit like Gimli's reaction in the second Lord of the Rings movie there. And they're going up into the cities like you'd find more cheer in a graveyard. It'd be a little bit like that. A combination of people that are demoralized, people that are on the fence, and people who just don't give a fucking shit. They're just there, oh, it's a presidential debate. Well, I'm going to do that instead of, going and weeding my pubes of crab lice or something like that. People that don't give a fuck, mainly, because who could give a fuck? Tim Scott is well-meaning, but he's atrocious as a candidate. He uses the soaring speech thing almost as well as Obama, actually. We'll give him credit where credit's due. His speeches can be interesting. The problem is he always talks about either Reagan or Jesus. Vivek Ramaswamy is well-spoken, but he goes off the rails, launches a bunch of insults, and for some odd reason, the Republican voting base doesn't really like the dude. It seems that the neocon Republicans especially think he's an asshole. Well, I would aim that at another candidate on the stage, namely the female one, but, then that would be conceived of as sexist by YouTube, so I won't even mention that. We have Ron DeSantis, the presumptive second runner, the head of the also-rans. He sits at the front of the short bus. And by short, I'm making a pun, by the way, just in case you didn't notice. But he's unelectable. He's basically burned out at this point. His campaign is in shreds and tatters. Nikki Haley, the dedicated warmonger. Woo, a lot of people getting excited for that. And then Christie, the only reason Christie's even there is, he barely makes the threshold, number one. And number two, what does he do the whole time? Well, Donald Trump is a bad person. Vivek's wrong to call the GOP a party of losers. No, we can be winners. It's just Trump's fault. One person has caused the party to melt down. Because clearly Trump controls the entire fundraising apparatus of the GOP. None of these other people, Kevin McCarthy, Senator Mitch McConnell, they don't even exist. That's basically Christie's line. By the way, purslane is more than okay. It's delicious in a salad. I'm seeing that mentioned down there. Don't talk shit about purslane. And it's basically a weed, so, you don't even have to cultivate it. Yeah, so that's long story short. The reason why Trump's rally matters is because it's a general election rally. It's not a primary rally. He's already won the primary. These people are just being academic and fending one another off for second place for the clout or for the book deal or for the cabinet position at this point. Or so that they can say, well, I almost had a chance, but I told you so, should Trump lose. DeSantis, if he comes in second place, he'll be insufferable if Trump loses. Another reason to vote for Trump in the general election, by the way. He'll never let that issue go. Pumpkin Fire Crafts. Morning, clankers. Get your spoon and clank along. Yes, links in the description to merch. We have Pumpkin Fire Crafts. You can get bike chains. You can get key chains. You can get engraved spoons and much, much more. Also to Anton's, who I believe is likely to chime in here. Oh, yeah, he already did. Speak of the devil. At least you're a devil that makes damn good meat. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping for your biltong using code STICKS on www.landofbiltong.com and www.antonsusa.com. Get yourself some of the official Clank meat. Hashtag Clank Nation. It is good. Somebody the other day said that they didn't know where you were selling the ghost pepper one, though. Maybe it's just a demo. Limited edition. Deus Flex, does the Netherlands observe Armistice Day on November 11th, or do they leave it out because they remain neutral during World War I? I'm not sure if tomorrow is a national holiday, actually. Shit. Thanks for telling me that. The store might not open till noon. I mean, of course, sad about people that died in World War I, but, you know, everyone does have needs. If I don't have my energy drinks, it's a big problem. Eli, I live in Minneapolis, and believe me, Minnesota won't switch because of the Twin Cities. If you go anywhere outside of the metro, it's very red. But because of how heavily populated the Twin Cities are, they have the majority vote, sadly. I think that'll probably be the case. Virginia is more likely to flip. There's also New Hampshire, just to be clear. It'd be funny. Trump would otherwise have come in slightly behind, but he gets the 4 electoral votes from the state that the Democrats decided to snub in favor of South Carolina, and it carries him like 1 electoral vote over. Oh, the meltdown would be sheer. Not a band to count. Should Senator Armstrong join the GOP primaries? I don't know. Ozzy's Robots. Morning. Saw Kiko Matsui last night. She was awesome. Meeting Brian Kilmeade tonight. Anything I should ask him? If he keeps his spoon in his coffee, of course, when he drinks it, or tea, or whatever he drinks. Vodka. You never know. Eagle, what is worst, high cholesterol or high sugar? High sugar is worse. Yes, that's been fairly well established by fairly modern nutritional science, as opposed to yesteryears that their testing methodology could be a little bit of hit or miss. Wasted Bonehead. When we do our pay-per-view fight, Sigil will be doing Deadface and dress up as a ghost. I'd expect no less from the necrophobic scumbag. Next news stories. 3 winners and 1 loser from Election Day 2023. Democrats had a good night. So did abortion rights. Glenn Youngkin, not so much. This is, of course, from Vox. Now, I don't give a shit about who Vox thinks had a good or bad night. As far as these off-year elections that were just held the other day. And it is true. I mean, the tagline is fundamentally correct. The Democrats had some issues, but ultimately they won more of the races than they lost. Abortion, rights, as some of us term it, definitely won big. So did marijuana, but, Vox, for some odd reason, leaves that one out. I guess they want people to be able to have an abortion, but they don't want them to be able to toke up if they've got, chronic cancer issues and can't even fucking keep water down. I wanted to talk briefly about Glenn Youngkin being mentioned here. The idea that Glenn Youngkin is a loser, they're basically pulling a Trump strategy on Glenn Youngkin. The whole idea is to cast off Trump as an unelectable loser because endorsements and stuff like that. Well, here's a cherry-picked list of a few of the candidates he endorsed that didn't win. We're giving them artificial importance because we want this list to be 90% people that failed. They've been doing this now for years. They did this for 2020. They did this for the off-year elections that we just had. DeSantis fans and liberals have become undistinguishable in this particular act. They're doing the same to Glenn Youngkin. I'll tell you why. Glenn Youngkin didn't jump the gun like Ron DeSantis did. While I'm not hugely taken in by Youngkin, and there are some issues with him as a candidate, he has stayed above the fray completely. He's from a swing state. He's a relatively popular incumbent. He's got a reasonable amount of charisma. That is, his well-spokenness is relatively good by political standards. He's a fairly good speaker. He's in the right age range. They're afraid he's going to be the 28 nominee. And I've told people Glenn Youngkin is probably number 1 on the list of people I would expect to be the 28 Republican nominee. This is why they are preemptively trying to label him a loser, because he's not a loser. The qualifications are fundamentally there. Again, whether you like him ideologically or not, strategically or not, and I'm on the fence. I'm not sold on Glenn Youngkin. When I praise him in that sense, I'm not giving him my endorsement because I'm not a Republican. And again, there are elements of his ideology I have an issue with, but he is electable. So the far left and the legacy media in general are trying to tie him in with the loss of the Virginia legislature to say, look, ha, 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 and humiliate him. They are doing exactly the same to him that they've been doing with Trump. I realize it's apples to oranges. Trump was outside of politics, largely self-funded in 2016, populistic. Glenn Youngkin is more of a mainline, kind of like a Ted Cruz-ish character, you could say. Not self-funded. He's been in politics. I realize the comparison's not fully there, but he scares them. He quite clearly scares them. I think that what they're afraid of is Trump gets a term, endorses Youngkin. Youngkin soars to the fore, owes Trump, and they have to deal with at least watered-down populism for an extra 4 years. I think that's probably what they're worried about, because Youngkin hasn't come out and denounced Trump. He didn't do what DeSantis did. DeSantis would be the 28 nominee, by the way, had he not chosen to run in 24. I have no doubt whatsoever. Had he stood down and endorsed Trump, it would have been over then on day one of the primaries, number one, and DeSantis would have already been goddamn minted. It would have been inevitable that he would have been nominated. Youngkin knows this. He decided to sit it out and say, look, I got plenty of years left on me. If I miss it this time around, I don't care if Trump wins or loses. Look, if he loses, I can say, well, I had my private reservations. And if he wins, I can say, oh, well, I never stood against him. Maybe he'll give a tacit endorsement at some point. Glenn Youngkin is playing his cards right, and so naturally he's going to get smashed. They know what he's doing, in other words. The left has actually guessed his intent. They know that he's going to run in 28. I know it. Yeah, all of you know it. Does anyone doubt that Glenn Youngkin has presidential ambitions? Look at how he's playing the long game. Alan Smithy, Free Palestine with equal or greater purchase. BW, do we have hope when half our country are traitors? Yeah, I mean, you're always going to get dross in any country. The idea of having some stalwart civic society in which everyone just gets along, that's a mythology. It's never actually existed in mankind's history. SunnyCat85, our team K2N represented Clankdom well and came in second out of 85 teams at the Beast of the Southeast Dragon Boat Festival. Clank, congratulations! Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Dragon boats are cool, by the way. You will not be able to convince me otherwise. They call him a dragon boat for a reason. Look it up, dude. King of Biltong. The Ghost Pepper Wagyu XX is available under the Biltong category. We will split the categories into normal and hot on the website to make it more apparent. Thank you for all the feedback. Good idea. I can't wait to try it. Holy shit. I hope it's extra, extra spicy for real, though. You better be bringing that fire, baby. Wagnervik Gaming, you inspired me to start my channel. Clank. Oh, excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Clank, clank. I don't have anything to clank right now. I don't have any caffeine right now. I got this smoothie. Ananas Cocos Banana. Very, very good. It's basically like a pina colada without the booze in it. Aussie's Robots. Start a new movement. TLM. Trump Lives Matter. Yeah. Wasted Bonehead. When we do our fight, we'll be selling t-shirts, cups, action figures, comic books, and of course, Biltong to feed the hungry masses. Sponsored by Anton's Biltong. And please send no more super chats. I do have one more to go through. It is Friday, so I'm a little bit antsy to just I did not get a lot of sleep last night. I already told you about my crazy Chris Christie dream. It was fun. I didn't get a lot of sleep though. Baby woke me up twice. Cat woke me up 4 times. That was my last night. Okay, I was nice and cozy, nice and warm. And the cat comes trundling up under the bed, meow, meow, spinning her tail around as she jumps over the edge. And if I don't make room for her, if I don't scooch closer to the center of the bed, then she will immediately jump down all disgusted. And she'll go at meow at the baby's door and potentially wake her up, really emulating Yana, her sister, who we had to rehome for exactly this reason. It's becoming a problem. So I'm just taking one for the team, and I'm like, okay, if I have to literally lay like this in the bed, hunched up like a mummy, as long as the baby doesn't wake up. So, yeah, it was a fun time. So yeah, please don't send any more super chats because we got one more and a few more super chats to go through here. Mr. Thundermaker Sticks, have you ever read the original Conan the Barbarian stories by Robert E. Howard? No, I haven't. Fun sword and sorcery stories from before wokeness even existed. No, but I've seen Conan movie. Yeah. WJ Dad, does U.S. restrictions on high-end semiconductor availability to China add a major incentive to invade Taiwan? Yeah, unfortunately, there's an economic motive behind that to an extent. Aussie's Robots. Vivek is a Buttigieg clone in GOP clothing. Yeah, I'm not taken in by Vivek Ramaswamy, although he is being useful at times. Sigil Stone, Bonehead will be selling dildos, tuck-friendly bathing suits, and gender-neutral undead pronoun badges. And you missed my last rant, and my apologies. What was your last one? Was necrophobic? Because you misspelled it. Is necro the gender-neutral term for the undead? Are Bonehead's pronouns Z and Zir? My apologies. Ronan361, in my opinion, after destroying the leadership of 3-letter agencies, the remaining agents will fall under border and customs to mass deport. Thoughts? Possibly. I wish we could deport all of the bureaucrats. It'd definitely be a better country and a better world. Wasted Bonehead. Fuck off, Sigil. And now the final news story is our resident zombie and the grave shitter battle it out. Arkansas Governor Sarah Sanders makes her endorsement in the presidential race, and fucking big surprise, it's Donald Trump. I'm going to put this in the same category as Illinois Governor Reynolds. When Reynolds endorsed DeSantis, it was not a surprise. It doesn't really move the metric in any meaningful way. DeSantis gets a couple extra points in Iowa. Yeah, who cares? They were celebrating it as some massive historic victory, and I'm sitting there like, Donald Trump has openly insulted Kim Reynolds on a number of occasions. Nobody in the MAGA camp thought that he was going to get the Reynolds endorsement. It was probably, I mean, if anything, she would have just sat it out, not endorsed, and just been silent. She chose to endorse DeSantis instead. I am not the least bit surprised that Sarah Sanders decided to endorse Donald Trump. Not in any way, shape, or form. And the idea that he has a problem with winning fucking Arkansas in the primaries, yeah, I'm thinking that's probably not going to be an issue for him. That's down the ways a bit. Iowa's important mainly because it's the first state. But again, they've got a split primary caucus system that they've imposed that probably helps Trump anyway. The governor there is not particularly well liked, it seems, by a lot of voters anyway. I don't think that it means anything. With Sanders, she's more popular and more likable than Reynolds, maybe. Although she's middling as far as well-spokenness. But do you really think that Donald Trump needed an endorsement to win the state of Arkansas in the GOP primaries? I haven't seen any polling, at least for many, many moons. He's probably like 50 points ahead there. That's core Trump country. That's MAGA country. I don't think that anyone's going to be able to compete with him there. Even if he fucking lost Iowa, he probably still would pick that state up, along with every other state. And he won't lose Iowa, so don't worry. I'm not making some sort of a prediction. Yeah, Vivek Ramaswamy is a little bit of an enigma. Got some difficulties. I like how the Soros ties thing apparently is only half true at most. I know that the DeSantis fans trot it out every time he insults somebody. I would think if I was a DeSantis fan, I would like Vivek because he seems to mainly go after Nikki Haley because of the ideological divide on foreign policy issues. I would be praising him, at least on the sly with a burner account. I'm sure some of them do because they're like, well, I mean, he's gunning for the person who's gunning for second place against our guy. And, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why the fuck would you have a problem with Vivek Ramaswamy if your main dude is Ron DeSantis? I'm not 100% sure about exactly why. It could be that lack of strategy from the DeSantis camp and its paid influencers. Yeah, Mike Ogden, the Chinese triads and associated shell firms are setting up weed growing in the state of Maine in the United States. Probably trying to poison people with fentanyl more than anything else. Anyway, as far as the candidates go, of course, I'm Team Trump, so he's my top. Tim Scott is likable, but his messaging is off. Nikki Haley is terrible in every way. Ron DeSantis, I genuinely don't believe he's a deep state asset. I do not believe that about DeSantis, and I know some of you do. I disagree with you. But he's just inept. He doesn't understand how to focus or seemingly even run his campaign, which is inexplicable because, in the last election for the gubernatorial bid, he was doing so well. And by the way, while Trump's endorsement of him mattered and definitely helped him, in his re-election bid, he really didn't need a goddamn endorsement. He won by 20 fucking goddamn points in the state that supposedly is the 50-50 mean median in mode. So, I can't support DeSantis because I think he would lose in a general. Yes, I think he would manage to lose against someone like Joe Biden somehow. Ramaswamy, I see as disingenuous. I am very wary of him. And then Chris Christie, he's not really running. He's just a blowhard. He's there to effectively just do the I hate Trump thing. And he gets free brunches. When he goes to a debate or something, he's expecting free food. He doesn't even seem to want to sell a book. He's literally there for the catering table after he puts in his hour and a half work. That appears to be actually serious. I don't think that we're even joking when we make jokes about that. I think that we're actually stating reality in a humorous manner. So Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee unless they're crazy enough to broker the convention or something. Or if he dies, of course. I mean, if he does, let's hope that it's of natural causes and that nobody took a shot, because then all hell probably breaks loose. Do you think that J6 was a really bad, dark day for the United States? Yeah, it'd be probably about as bad as if RFK Jr. got offed right now. I mean, again, he denies Secret Service agents to that individual. They're Kennedy, by the way, and then they get assassinated, or someone at least attempts to, Hinckley style. I think that would be a bad day for Joe Biden. Yeah. The George Floyd riots. The BLT riots over Pink Floyd were justified. Anyway, I'm going to go offline. It's Friday, so I will not be online on the weekend, of course. I have other things to do. I'm not cooking tonight, but I do have to heat soup. Normally, I make my own soup. I just don't have the goddamn mental energy right now. I'm going to heat up soup, make a couple of fucking toasties, and sack out and just relax, honestly. Try to recharge my batteries tonight. Hopefully the cat wakes me up only, let's say, 2 times. 3 is pushing it. 4 is a little bit too much. If it's 2 times, that's okay, because I'm an insomniac and I'd probably wake myself up anyway a couple times during the night. So, yeah, I hope that you had a good time, everyone. I will be back on Monday with much, much more good news. And probably shit news too, because that's basically what that's what brings in the ad revenue. So it's what you see on your screen before you. That's about all.